I started receiving messages. You know how sometimes you get a text from an unknown number that just says, "Hi." I block them, but sooner or later that same hi pops up from another number, and I block that one. Well, this started out like that, only the first message wasn't hi. It was, "We are not dead." They claimed to be using a future technology to send messages back in time, a warning of the world to come. The Horror Eternal presents We Are Not Dead, Chapter 11, Horror Hills. Once again, the text stopped coming. Another week went by and nothing. Alma anxiously checking in 24/7. I'd just come in from a grueling day outrunning the clock when another text arrived, Alma's name on the banner. "Are you sure you aren't holding out on me so I'll come back to your place and fuck you again?" "Promise," I responded. "About that was the last time. I shouldn't have done it. You understand. I'd be lying if I said I wasn't wrestling with disappointment as I typed, understood. Also, I have an idea. Since you aren't getting any more texts, why don't you take the ones you have and turn them into a podcast? Stake that IP, dude. You can just continue the story where it left off. You're a writer, for fuck's sake. Write. I thought about it. Not a bad idea. I'll think about it, I sent back. Double hearts and a pencil emoji. I grabbed the 7-Up from the fridge, dumped a nice dose of whiskey in, and took a healthy mouthful, the alcohol rush washing out the tension from every nerve in my body. Then I flopped down at my desk and wiggled the mouse to bring the computer screen to life. As I did every night since the texting began, I went on the UFO, UAP, paranormal forums where I'd left messages asking if anyone out there was having a similar experience with these purported messages from the future. As usual, there were no responses until I opened Reddit and found a DM dated 6 hours prior from user U/Rhea_Lamia. "I am in possession of a phone sending me messages like the ones you described. DM me." Naturally, I was skeptical, but no harm in responding. "Don't take offense, but I have to ask a question to be sure you're for real. What appears on the Earth in about 2 years from now?" I sent off the message and moved on to some other forums where I found the usual no responses to my posts. Checked back on Reddit, but no reply. I figured it wouldn't be anytime soon, if ever, so I clicked out and dragged myself to the bedroom. Woke the next morning with a renewed sense of purpose. I'd thought about what Alma said, and she was right. I could do something with these messages. Maybe a podcast would be the way to have an impact on a larger scale that might prevent the events of the future from happening, or at least prepare us, give us a fighting chance. Or maybe a sweet streaming series or a movie deal. It was my day off from work, so I hit my desk and began organizing and transcribing the messages. After a few hours in a zone I hadn't achieved for a while, the Reddit DM popped into my head. I pulled up the page and opened my messages. A rush of exhilaration hit as I discovered a reply waiting in my inbox. I opened it and read the single-word answer: Watchers. My excited rush turned to cold fear, like the trumpets heard round the world and the thing in the sky the night before. This was all too real. "Incredible," I replied. "How can we connect?" I hit send and looked around the room. I couldn't tell you why, but suddenly everything felt empty. A heavy weight came over me, a sadness. I recognized it. It was familiar. It was the feeling that had hung over me for months after Alma left, filling every space I inhabited. Here at home, work, driving in my car, the grocery store. Everywhere was her ghost. Everywhere was a signpost to the empty space she'd left behind. I don't know if it had ever gone away, to be honest, more than I'd simply gotten used to this feeling. And now, seeing her, touching her, making love, was like ripping the scab off a wound. I was bleeding again. The blood between us, made possibly all the worse by her casual attitude toward me, making it perfectly clear that in her world there was no ghost of me to haunt her, that I am merely an object, something to be used as suits her whims. If only I could find it in myself to hate her for it. My eyes darted to the lock screen on my phone as the text chime rang, always looking for the next communique from tomorrow. It was Alma. It read, I had a dream about the texts. You started receiving them again. Only now, the future was a paradise. The creatures all went into a cocoon-like state, and when they emerged, their form was completely different. They had wings and glowed like pure energy, like the thing we saw over your apartment last night. They emanated a kind of purity, goodness, and hope, and mankind was slowly restored to its original state of innocence. Kindness and goodwill spread across the globe, and slowly the world changed. Wars stopped, people helped each other, hate evaporated, and equality among people took hold. Governments disbanded, replaced by cooperation and goodwill. There was no more hunger. People were happy. It wasn't that there was no more pain or sadness, life being impermanent as it is. There was still death, but it was like everything was reversed, and people faced the world from a place of joy in their hearts. And you and I were together. We were married and had happy, healthy children, a boy and a girl, Prudence and Oscar. But then something happened. Someone came from the future, a woman. She seduced you, then she murdered you, and all that had transformed began to decay. Hatred, distrust, anger, and jealousy all returned, and the hopes and joys mankind had achieved were washed away, and hell returned to the earth. I don't know what it means, but when I woke, I was worried about you. It felt less like a dream and more like a warning, a premonition. Maybe it came from that thing in the sky. And now I'm stuck with this ache inside, the pain of regret for all that I've done. I know I said it before, but I'll say it again. I want you to know that I'm sorry. There was a sudden feeling of expansion inside my body, my entire being, squeezing tears from my eyes. I closed the text thread, swiped and deleted it. I went out to the balcony and looked up. There was still a distinct fluctuation in the space where the thing had hung in the sky, an impression on reality that refused to fade away. Later that afternoon, as I diligently transcribed the text, the chime rang out and the thread snapped down to the bottom, revealing the message. It read, "The fever seems to have passed. Some events are still hazy, indicating possibly permanent damage from the virus," or whatever it was. But I'm drawn back to an image in my mind, a vision of horror from that night in the Hollywood Hills with Sadie. I'd finally caught up to her at an overlook that rounded the hillside. The watchers were gone, or maybe to use a more precise term, imperceptible. Sadie turned from the glow of the city and met my eyes as I approached, held me tight in her gaze. "They know you," she said. "They? Who? Who knows me?" I responded. "Them. The Watchers," she said. "I don't understand. How do they know me? How do you know what they know?" "The voices. You asked about the voices we hear in our minds when they're near. I heard them tonight, starting with the one we summoned at the restaurant. It spoke to me, but clearly this time," she explained. "Only it wasn't in that weird word scramble. It was something different, something clear, something more like an impression." "An impression? Okay, but what does that have to do with me?" "Maybe it has to do with the fact that we both reached out with our minds to call it into being. Maybe there's a connection. But it gave me a clear impression of you and the canyon, and that I should bring you here." Her description set my already pounding heart rate on overdrive. "Okay, that's kind of terrifying. Why didn't you tell me this? Is this some kind of setup?" No. At least the impression isn't anything like that. There's something here, something you need to find," she said, running her palms over my hands, sliding her fingers between mine and gripping them. "Is there something you lost?" "No, nothing comes to mind. I haven't been up here in years," I replied. "Anyway, we both reached out. Why didn't I get this impression back at the restaurant?" "Did you lose someone?" Sadie said, the gleam of the moon hitting her eyes. My mad racing heartbeat skipped. "What do you mean?" I said, my voice suddenly shaky. "What do you mean, someone?" Someone close. You lost them, lost her," Sadie continued. Her words sent my feet back a step. "Okay, that's it for me. I'm getting out of here." I started walking. "Are you coming or staying?" I didn't look back for an answer. I was determined, but then suddenly the shadows began to move and sway, and the creatures were all around. On the hillside, under the trees, along a rocky path. They weren't impeding me. just watching, swaying like trees in the wind, appeared to be simply making their presence known. Then it came, an impression, just as Sadie had put it, a face half buried in the dirt. I stopped in my tracks. Sadie's cold hand took my arm from behind. You feel it? You see it, right? It's a sick joke. I told you they're cruel. Demons dining on our fears. I forced out, lungs tight under the sudden pressure in my chest. Sadie spoke quietly. Why cruel? Maybe they saw your pain, felt your pain, and wanted to help. I stared at the ground, refusing to meet her eyes. Maybe that's why they're here, to help us all, she continued, to heal the human race. You're projecting, Sadie. Nothing that looks like those things can be here to heal anything. Sounds like you're projecting a very human-centric reality onto something just because it looks different. I'm getting out of here, I resolved finally. Wait, she held my arm tight. Don't you want to know? Know what? I asked, patience waning. Where she is, Sadie said. I'm done with this, I said, pulling my arm away from her grip and moving back down the trail. My determined stride was cut short as a massive shadow passed over ahead of me, leaving one of those damnable creatures standing directly in my path. A start sent goosebumps crawling over my flesh, and before I could stop, the image was in my head. Sylvia, her face half buried in the dirt, skin mostly gone, decayed, a rotting skull. A rage lit up inside of me. Fuck you! I exploded, then shot forward as fast as I could, lowering my head to pass through the creature. Only my body recoiled as it met the immovable force of solid form, the violent impact throwing me back to the ground. I spit dust and sat up, my eyes wide, a new kind of horror gripping me inside. I must admit there was a sense of safety in the knowledge that the creatures were not corporal in the way that we are. It allowed for some sense of security, some hope that these things weren't real, just some kind of projection, a mass hallucination. Now that I'd experienced a very defined contact, all sense of safety had been stolen from my frame and replaced with pure terror. I felt Sadie's hand on my shoulders as she came up behind me. Oh my God, she said. Are you okay? What happened? What? It blocked me, that's what happened, I said, wiping the dirt from my face. So they're real. Or they can be if they want to be, she exclaimed on half a breath. Yeah, seems that way, I said, pushing myself back up to my feet. I watched as Sadie walked to the side of the pathway and picked up a large branch from the ground and approached one of the creatures standing nearby. She held out the branch and touched the creature. As with me, the branch stopped against a fully realized form. This one too, it's solid. She tossed the stick to the ground and walked back over. Do you think it's all of them? How the fuck should I know? I said. Maybe it's you, she said quietly. Me what? I asked. They seem to be focused on you in a very direct way. Maybe when you challenged their existence, they were finally brought through into our world. That doesn't make any sense. Me out of all people, I'm the one. Why? I don't know. I also don't know why there are alien golems suddenly populating the planet. But there are. There's no frame of reference for anything anymore, she said. Well, I'll agree with you there, I replied. No matter how hard I tried to keep it out, push it away like the intrusive thought that it was, I couldn't keep the vision of Sylvia's face out of my mind. It was like two images transposed over one another, one of her rotted remains, the other her peaceful face, eyes closed, like the last time I'd watched her sleeping in the bed next to me. Her inner beauty flourished in the stillness of her sleep, free from the storm wall of chaos that fueled her waking condition. A peace on her face I wished for her soul. I would sit and just watch her in that state, sometimes for hours. There was a sudden movement, and even Sadie took a quick step back as two long appendages unfurled from the watcher's torso, ripping through the thin, fibrous membrane that held them close to its body. Long, sinewy fingers clacked and popped at the joints as they opened up into razor-sharp, spiny talons. It was alive in a way we'd never experienced before. A terrifying visage poised like death against the moonlit night.
If you have enjoyed this program, please like, review, and share. Spread the word. Help us build an audience to change the future. The Horror Eternal presents We Are Not Dead. Written, produced, and performed by Roy Burdine. Sound design and mix by Mark Labib. The Horror Eternal and We Are Not Dead are copyright 2026 Roy Burdine. This has been a Spiral Opus audio production. Also from Spiral Opus, don't miss Mindraker, Background Anger, the story of a psychic assassin on a mission from God. Season 1 available on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and everywhere you get your podcasts.
Monster Forge. We make monsters.